About Mikey Garcia, and as you can tell, he's a smart guy. Now that I've got to know him better since he's been in camp, he makes very good decisions. So you got to respect him. He sees whatever he sees, and that's why he took this fight. And as they say, dare to be great. That's exactly what he's doing. So I'm being as close as I have been the last month to Mikey. He's very confident. Let me say that.
You make maybe like when a fighter like Paulie Malignaggi says, you're not on the even playing field if you're not doping at this.
Well, in the past that may have been true, but things are changing. I've said that publicly, that now that, let me explain something. VADA does all the prohibited substances and methods of the WADA protocol, but at all times. That's the difference. With USADA, they test for certain things on fight night, but those things are not tested for during the camp. So BJ Saunders, as you know, recently with Demetrius, bam, he pops positive. Well, they argued that previous to that, he was following the UK anti-doping and the WADA code and all this, but I know the big difference. So in fact, I'm the one that sponsored the testing for the fight. And if you look at BJ Saunders, all of a sudden he's weighing 180 and 30 days later he's weighing 160. How's he cutting all this weight? In my opinion, he's using stimulants. So cocaine, methamphetamine, you name it, all those other derivatives. A boxer can use those to his advantage for energy, for weight loss, etc., etc. They don't test for cocaine except in fight night.
It's a hell of a drug.
So I'm just saying, any and all of the stimulant family of drugs you can take under WADA. I mean, and the WADA code and other national bodies like UKAD or USADA here in the United States. That's not the case with VADA. They test for all substances at all times. And so we'll have to, which means certain people like Joshua, he didn't have any problem with it. Kell Brook, he didn't have any problem with it. So this is a higher standard. So I'm very curious to see how this fight with Mikey and Earl turns out, but I've got a lot of respect for both guys.
What's your role with VADA? Do you have a role with VADA?
I don't have any role with VADA, other than in the beginning, I have met with USADA, I have met with the founding chairman of WADA, I have met with Margaret Goodman and Flip Hamonsky that run VADA, and given them my input on what the loopholes are and how these athletes are circumventing the testing. Other than that, and being a big fan, you know, I have provided sponsorship money for some of the boxers, probably 10, 12, 15 boxers. I have no contact or no role other than that, so I'm trying to tell them, you know, how you can catch these guys, what they're doing and how they're doing it. So I have provided that sort of general information, but no specific information about any boxer or athlete.
The boxing public might find it kind of ironic that you being convicted of performance-enhancing PEDs is now advocating for drug tests. Can you speak to that?
Well, there's been a lot of cases like that. You know, that's the people that you want, because those are the guys that know how to circumvent the testing. So as I've said loudly and clearly, I tap danced on the forehead of Travis Tygart and USADA for 4 years, and none of my people ever tested positive. I think that information is valuable to WADA and USADA and VADA. So I stepped forward and had meetings with them and met with USADA 3 times and went over 3,000 pages of documents involved in the Balco case. So, you know, listen, I made serious mistakes, and this is a form of sponsorship and knowledge that I have is a form of restitution that I'm trying to provide to, because I understand the damage from the mistakes that I made in the past. So I can't change what I did, but I can change what happens in the future.
One might argue that you know the cheat codes and how to surpass the actual testing.
Well, those people that say that don't understand how the testing works. The entire game with Balco was changed. It used to be that there's 2 different, what's the right word, prongs for the testing. The first is with anabolic steroids and all steroids. One is it's similar in structure to testosterone, and 2, there has to be some sort of scientific research showing that it causes protein synthesis or muscle growth. Well, once Balco came about, they took away the second prong, which means that everybody's saying, oh, they're just another designer steroid. There's another undetectable one. People just, what's the next one going to be? Let me tell you, there are none. And the reason is all anabolic steroids are similar in structure to testosterone. So if you're trying to, so now what do? What's the new game now? Is everybody went back old school. They're using testosterone, they're using creams and gels and microdosing and trying to fly under the radar, but it's much more difficult now than it was pre-Balco. A lot of stuff came out, they're much smarter now, so it's more difficult to circumvent the testing.
Thank you, Victor.
Okay, thank you. Guys.
Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. Okay.
We gotta do. I saved all my stuff. We gotta do a one-on-one interview.
Well, maybe sometime. I'm here with my wife now.
No, not today.
Okay.
I would love to call you.
Okay.
And
sure.
get your number and call.